In the spring of 1941, the Battle of the Atlantic was not a battle, it was a slaughter. Great Britain, standing alone against the might of Hitler's new empire, was being starved into submission. Convoys of food, fuel and weapons, crawling across the ocean from America, were being sent to the bottom by German U-boats at a rate that the British could not sustain. And yet, the U-boat was not the weapon that British Prime Minister Winston Churchill feared the most. His greatest fear was a single ship, a 50,000-ton leviathan of steel and firepower, a fortress of the sea built for one purpose: to break out into the open Atlantic and to single-handedly sever Britain's lifeline. This ship was the largest and most powerful battleship in the world. Her name was the Bismarck. The Bismarck was more than just a ship. She was the symbol of the Third Reich's naval ambition. After the First World War, the Treaty of Versailles had forbidden Germany from building any warship over 10,000 tons. For almost 2 decades, the German Navy was a coastal defense force, a shadow of its former self. But when Adolf Hitler came to power, he dreamed of a new fleet, a fleet to challenge the masters of the sea, the British Royal Navy. This was known as Plan Z, and the Bismarck was its crown jewel. Laid down in Hamburg in 1936, she was a masterpiece of engineering and a terrifying instrument of war. She was over 820 feet long, the length of 3 football fields. Her armor belt, at its thickest, was over 12 inches of solid reinforced steel, and her guns were the stuff of legend. She carried 8 15-inch cannons mounted in 4 massive turrets. These guns could hurl a shell, weighing as much as a small car, over 22 miles, with pinpoint accuracy. This was a ship built to fight anything, and to outrun anything it could not fight. By May of 1941, the Bismarck was finally ready. She was joined by another new warship, the heavy cruiser Prinz Eugen. The mission, given the codename Operation Rheinübung, or Rhine exercise, was simple and deadly. The 2 ships were to break out from their base in the Baltic, slip past the British patrols in the North Sea, and enter the vast hunting ground of the North Atlantic. They were not to engage enemy warships. Their job was to attack the convoys, the undefended merchant vessels. The Prinz Eugen would hunt the freighters, while the Bismarck, her job was to sink any warship, any cruiser or destroyer that came to protect them. In command of this squadron was Admiral Lütjens. Lütjens was a brilliant, experienced and deeply pessimistic officer. He was a naval traditionalist, not a fervent Nazi. He understood the risks. He knew that the entire British home fleet would be hunting him. He knew that the Bismarck was a single ship and that the ocean was very large, but the Royal Navy was larger still. He had requested that the Bismarck's sister ship, the Tirspitz, accompany them. He had asked to wait for the cover of new battleships. He was overruled. The order was given. The operation must proceed. On the 18th of May 1941, Admiral Lütjens led his 2 ships, the Bismarck and the Prinz Eugen, out of the harbour at Gotenhaven. A German reconnaissance plane, flying ahead, reported that the British home fleet was still at anchor in its main base at Scapa Flow, in Scotland. The way appeared to be clear. But the British were not blind. On May 20th, a Swedish cruiser on patrol spotted the 2 massive German ships. The information was passed to the British naval attaché in Stockholm. The message was cryptic, but clear. 2 large German warships steaming north, Then the next day, the most critical piece of intelligence arrived. A British Spitfire flying a high-altitude photo mission over the coast of Norway captured a clear image of the Bismarck anchored in a fjord near the city of Bergen. She was refueling. The photos were rushed to London. The secret was out. The Bismarck was on the move. At Scapa Flow, the commander of the British Home Fleet, Admiral John Tovey, received the news. He knew instantly what this meant. This was not a drill. This was not a transfer. This was the breakout. Admiral Tovey ordered his fleet to raise steam. Every ship, every cruiser, every destroyer was put on high alert. His two most powerful ships, the battleship Prince of Wales and the pride of the Royal Navy, the legendary battlecruiser HMS Hood, were ordered to sea. They were to sail at maximum speed to the Denmark Strait, the icy, fog-choked passage between Iceland and Greenland. Admiral Tovey was betting that this was the route Lütjens would take to enter the Atlantic. In London, at the Admiralty, Winston Churchill penned a simple, chilling order that was sent to every ship in the fleet. Sink the Bismarck. The greatest naval hunt in history had just begun.
While the Hood and Prince of Wales steamed west, Admiral Tovey led the main battle fleet, including his flagship, King George V, directly from Scapa Flow, hoping to cut the Germans off. The British plan relied on two ships, two heavy cruisers, the Norfolk and the Suffolk. These ships were already on patrol in the Denmark Strait. They were the eyes of the fleet. Their job was not to fight, but to find and to shadow. The Suffolk was equipped with a new secret technology, radar. On the evening of May 23rd, in the freezing fog and ice of the strait, a lookout on the Suffolk screamed. Out of the mist, at just 7 miles distance, the silhouette of the Bismarck appeared. It was a monster. The Suffolk immediately turned hard to starboard, diving back into the fog bank. Her radio operator's hands flew, sending the most important message of the war. Enemy battleship and cruiser in sight. Admiral Lütjens now knew he had been spotted. On the Bismarck's bridge, he was furious. The element of surprise was gone. The Suffolk and Norfolk began a dangerous game of cat and mouse. They used the fog and their radar to stay just over the horizon, tracking the Bismarck's every move and reporting it back to Tovey's fleet. Lütjens, enraged by the shadows, made his first aggressive move. He ordered the Bismarck to turn and to fire a salvo at his pursuers. The 15-inch guns erupted. Massive shells screamed through the icy air, landing so close to the Norfolk that the blast wave shredded her radar antennas. The British cruisers, completely outgunned, fell back. But they had done their job. The trap was now being set. All through the night of May 23rd, the signals continued. The Bismarck was steaming at 28 knots, heading south, straight for the open ocean. And steaming at 30 knots to intercept them were the Hood and the Prince of Wales. On the bridge of the Hood was Vice Admiral Lancelot Holland. He knew his duty. He had to stop the Bismarck from reaching the convoys at any cost. At 5:35 in the morning, on May 24th, the lookout on the Prince of Wales made visual contact. There they were, two gray shadows 17 miles distant against the rising sun. Admiral Holland gave the order, prepare for action. This was the clash the Royal Navy had dreamed of. The Hood. For 20 years, she had been the symbol of British sea power, the largest, most beautiful warship in the world. She was fast, and she was powerful. But she had one single, fatal flaw. She was a battle cruiser, not a battleship. Her deck armor was paper-thin. She was designed to fight at a distance, not in a close-range brawl where shells would plunge down from the sky. Admiral Holland knew this. His plan was to charge the Bismarck, close the distance as fast as possible so the enemy shells would hit his thick side armor, not his thin decks. At 5:52 a.m., Admiral Holland gave the order, open fire. The Hood's massive guns roared to life, aimed at the Prince Eugen by mistake. The Prince of Wales, its guns still new and untested, targeted the Bismarck. The Germans held their fire. On the Bismarck's bridge, Admiral Lütjens was hesitant. His orders were to avoid combat, but his gunnery officer, Captain Adalbert Schneider, was pleading permission to open fire. As British shells began to fall around them, Lütjens finally gave the command. The Bismarck and the Prince Eugen returned fire. Their aim was deadly.